Seguimos en FutureCom 2011, donde está ocurriendo el evento de telecomunicaciones más importante de América Latina, y contamos en estos momentos con el Individual Business Card Paul Mockapetris, que es de la empresa Nominum, que hablan o que se dedican a la parte de la seguridad de los DNS. Así que tenemos una persona que va a estar mañana haciendo una presentación importante sobre el tema. Paul, welcome to Telesemana.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so you're going to be presenting tomorrow. Tell us what, if you can give us a preview on what you're going to be talking to the audience tomorrow at this auditorium.
Happy to do so. Nominum is in the business of supplying DNS, which is basically the directory of the internet. It's where you get those names like www.nominum.com, to about 500 million broadband customers. And we are known for doing that in a very reliable way. The innovation we're going to be talking about tomorrow has to do with cost-effective cybersecurity, which can protect both the user and the carrier from the threats of bots, spam, and other things. And the interesting thing about that is it's all based upon our expertise in DNS.
Okay. Is there any way to stop these guys from messing up with because our website has been attacked several times. We have been well protected, but we know that we've been attacked. So I'm assuming that other companies, we've seen news of their web pages being attacked. So can we stop these guys?
There's two principles for cybersecurity. One of which is you got to do it in a cost-effective way, and the other one is that you got to have multiple defensive tactics that you use against the bad guys. Okay. You want to make sure that if you are using 3 tactics, they have to be able to get in, break through all 3 of them. So what we are is we're the first and second level there, but there'll still be antivirus and other measures as well. We've found that we can detect the people who are having problems in a network, who have infections, and then the question is exactly how you go about removing those infections.
Yeah, because we heard about the term backdoor. Mm-hmm. Like these guys come in, you fix it, but somehow they have left a backdoor to get in again in the future. So what's happening with that?
I'm afraid
at least that's what happened with our website. So we have a backdoor there.
I'm afraid that in the internet world, it's a little bit like the real world. We have dozens, if not hundreds, of different kinds of crimes and different things that people will try. We're looking at protecting the broadband populace, the general person that's out there using a broadband network, and doing that with the help of their carrier. There's more kinds of attacks, but what we do, for example, is that we advise the user, hey, you shouldn't go there. That's a bad part of town. That's a bad part of cyberspace to go to. And that's the first step in defense. The other thing is, if a user gets infected, we can detect that and let them know or let the carrier know.
Okay, what about mobile? Because obviously we're seeing the surge of smartphones now coming to the market. I don't know if there are some myths with the fact that if I'm using a wireless phone, I shouldn't be doing certain bank transactions on my phone. Let's better do it on my fixed connection. Has that any thing to sustain that argument of being more secure on the fixed line than on the mobile line when it comes to broadband?
I think the first thing you want to be careful about is whether you're using your mobile phone or whether you're using your laptop at home or a fixed desktop computer. If you're infected with something, you shouldn't be using it to do bank because it can be watching your keystrokes. Okay. So if you're using an infected device, no matter where it is, it's very dangerous for you. People can use that. And these days, I'm afraid cybercrime does pay. So people have to pay some attention to this and try and avoid it.
Okay, what these guys are gaining from doing this? What are the benefits they get from breaking into different systems and just messing it up?
For the general user populace, it's usually just stealing money. Okay. People will all of a sudden find that their bank account has been compromised or their passwords have been stolen. Other people will just find that there's like these denial of service attacks, and a denial of service attack is often based upon 10,000 or 100,000 machines that have been collected in a botnet. They've all been infected, and now the person that infected them is using them to send spam or send a denial of service attack out, so that they may not even know it. Your machine may be participating in that and you don't even know it. So that's really part of the threat that we're working on right now.
Okay, what about the operators? Because obviously as a user, if you have an issue with your machine or the internet connection or your password, you might be able to compelled to call the operator and say, hey, I was using your internet connection and this happens to me. What are the operators doing and can they do something about it?
I think long term we have to figure out what the relationship is and the obligation between the operator and the customer. I think an operator has a definite responsibility to defend their own network, and also probably to defend their users. But if an operator detects that you're their customer and you have an infection, but it's very low level, it's really not affecting your usage, they have an obligation to let you know or whatever. Certainly when you call up, I would certainly want the operator to say, oh, by the way, we've found that there's this potential virus problem, so you should be thinking about that rather than worrying about some of these other issues. Because an infection like that, that's sending spam from your machine or sending a denial of service from your machine, is also giving you slow service, and that's the way you notice it.
Okay. What about the sophistication of the attacks? Because sometimes we hear or we think that these hackers are in a room full of machines doing a lot of coding, and perhaps things are not as sophisticated as we think. So how are the attacks being produced by these guys?
The vast majority of attacks are not very sophisticated. I mean, we hear in the newspapers about Stuxnet and these very sophisticated attacks. The average user is getting hit by things that are mass-produced, and it's just like there are many people that have copies of Office or whatever standard software. There are standard copies of attack software, and people are using the good old attacks over and over again.
Okay.
And that's the majority of damage out there.
So it's not sophistication what is causing the issues?
It depends on who you are. If you're the broadband user, that's what you should be worried about first. If you're a government, then there's very sophisticated cyber war kind of attacks. We know that there's 12 countries around the world that are indulging in building cyber war stuff. That's a whole different ballgame. But for the average user, you should be careful where you go on the internet, and you should be careful to find out whether or not you have any problems and fix them as soon as possible.
And in terms of government, now that you mentioned that, are you guys able to provide security for governments in Brazil or in Chile or in any country in Latin America if they feel they need some security to prevent being hit by one of those attacks that we're hearing now on the news?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're working with various governments, but it's only one layer out of a multi-layer defense. There's no one defensive tactic that works other than turning your machine off and disconnecting.
Okay, that works?
That works.
Okay, all right, we'll consider that. Thank you so much, Paul.
You're welcome.